It felt like we couldn't get shots to fall in the first half, and it probably affected a little bit of our energy, which had kind of been our identity to this point. And so the pressure wasn't there as much, and we weren't getting run outs, and it just felt like the life wasn't quite there. And it probably started with a little lack of shot making, and I think. We really brought it. We brought the fight in the third quarter. Made it a great game. I thought it was a fun game. I thought our guys really enjoyed competing. Once we had a couple plays go our way, I think we had that run pretty early in the third to shrink the deficit pretty quickly. And a couple plays down the stretch, and that's the game.
What role were you looking for out of Hugo in this one, and how do you feel like he fared?
I think he just struggled with some shots, but we're asking him to do the same thing every game. That's impact the ball on defense. Active shifts, rebound, handle, screen, cut off ball. Like he's such a versatile player. You want to put him in all these different spots, and just didn't have it for much of the game. But I think he still made a bunch of big plays for us. I think it was a collective effort getting back in that game, and the starting unit was the one that really pushed us that opening push to start the third.
What did you see on the Jordan ejection from your perspective on the sidelines?
They pushed each other, and I actually didn't realize that they had already given a double tech during the free throws, so he got ejected for a second technical. But I thought he was playing physical, going for the ball, committed a foul, and they both pushed each other.
What did you say to him after the fact, after he got ejected? He was like screaming afterwards. Obviously, he was playing intense, but
I actually haven't come across him yet.
Coach, of course there is still a long way to know Hugo pretty well, but so far from all the conversations that you have had with him so far, what can you tell us about his character, his personality?
Yeah, he and I, particularly during last game, I was able to talk to him a little bit when it wasn't the heat of the battle, and just kind of what do you see out there, and just have more of a basketball conversation when he's not in the game competing. You just get much more personality in that aspect as opposed to the focus. But he's a competitor, and I love that about him. So, if he makes a mistake or thinks he should have done something better, he's going to be hard on himself. And I really appreciate that he cares, and I'm looking forward to coaching him on Thursday.
Is he maybe too hard on himself?
I don't know. That's not for me to judge. Yeah. I do think our whole team needed a next play mindset, and we probably didn't have that in the first half, and we brought it in the second half, and that gave us a chance.
Regarding that with Hugo, it seems like he can get pretty down on himself at times. How do you help him with just moving on to the next play and having that type of a mindset?
Yeah, it's tell him that we believe in him. We know that he's a great player. We know what he can do for us, and so sulking about a play, or more so sometimes beating himself up literally, stuff like that is not productive, and it's not going to help you lock in to the next play. Maybe, or at least that's not for me. I don't know what his best methods are for moving on. Maybe that's worked for him in the past, but I've only coached him for 2 games, so but I do think our whole team needed to move on to the next play a little bit better today.
What do you see from Miles Norris?
I see a guy that can shoot the ball, almost. But he also knows how to play. He sees the game. I think his activity has been awesome. Long wingspan, and he's putting it to use with a lot of defensive deflections and shifts and all that kind of stuff. I thought he made an awesome play right at the end there. Blocked Larson, I think, in the paint. Just basically an assist to Stevenson in the corner, which is just a tough break. But I think his defensive activity isn't something that he's necessarily known for, and he's really bringing it in Summer League.
Do you feel like he's growing in terms of being able to make plays off the dribble, Miles?
Yeah, it's not something he's been asked to do a whole lot, but because we're trying to play a little more fast pace, you don't necessarily script who's got the ball as much, so the ball will end up in his hands more. And I thought that he showed that he's got a little bounce to him. He had that nice floater down the stretch that felt like a big bucket at the time.
What did you see from Kendall Brown today?
Kendall has done the same thing for 3 games, and that's be in the right spot, sprint the floor, knock down shots when he's open, and I think he's making the right play.
Baylor was talking after the last game that even if his shots aren't falling, he feels like his effort and his energy is something that he can always lean on. Today, did you see that out of him, and kind of how has that been maybe contagious to other guys as well when other guys are kind of struggling? Yeah,
I would say in the first half they weren't falling, and he was still our primary playmaker. It takes a lot of mental toughness to know that you're impacting the game when you aren't shooting well, especially when you're a higher volume shooter like he has been for us at Summer League. But I do think he's done a great job. myself, a bunch of the other coaches are talking to him all the time, and he knows that he's impacting winning, even if his shots aren't falling. So it was good to see him make a couple big ones as that comeback started for us.
Coach, one more about to go on my end. Sorry. When you drafted, Brad Stevens said one of his most stunning aspects is like how he cuts. How he's impacting like in the system in the game of the team when he cuts like so far.
Yeah, so there's either scripted cuts where you play through the bigs or whatever, and we have some off-ball movement. But against a physical defense like Miami, where they're overplaying and denying, those backdoor passes are what's there. And I think our bigs were doing a good job of rewarding our guys cutting to the basket. We finished pretty well, Hugo included, and we fell a couple baskets short today.
Thank you. Thanks, man.